At the company Christmas party, my CEO wife gave her secretary a Rolex in front of everyone. My gift, an $8 total pair of socks. Be humble. Everyone gets what they deserve, she whispered. At 5 a.m., I packed my bags and left, but I left an envelope for her on the tree. The next morning, when she opened it, she started screaming non-stop. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you are watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Dennis and I'm 56 years old. 25 years of marriage taught me that love could be conditional, but I never imagined it could be this cruel. The company Christmas party was held at the Grand Ballroom downtown, the same venue where Ashley and I had our wedding reception decades ago. The irony wasn't lost on me as I straightened my tie in the hotel bathroom mirror. Ashley had been distant for months, buried in work, always claiming the company needed her attention more than I did. You look fine, Dennis, she said, without glancing up from her phone when I emerged. Just remember to smile and don't embarrass me tonight. Don't embarrass her. After 25 years of supporting her career, moving cities for her promotions, hosting her colleagues at dinner parties where I played the perfect husband, I was still the one who might embarrass her. The ballroom buzzed with conversation as we entered. Ashley's company had grown from a small startup to a major corporation during our marriage, and tonight celebrated their most successful year yet. I recognized most faces, executives I'd entertained at our home, employees who'd watched me stand proudly behind Ashley at company events for over 2 decades. Ashley immediately gravitated toward the center of attention, her laugh echoing across the room as she accepted congratulations on the year's profits. I found myself at the bar nursing a whiskey and watching her work the crowd with practiced ease. Dennis, called out Margaret from accounting. How are you holding up with Ashley working such long hours? I forced a smile. You know how it is. Success demands sacrifice. Margaret's expression softened with something that looked like pity. Yes, well, she's lucky to have such a supportive husband. Lucky. I wondered if Ashley felt lucky at all. The gift exchange began around 9 o'clock. Ashley had insisted we participate this year, though she'd been too busy to shop. I'd picked up generic gift cards for her to distribute, thinking nothing of it. But as I watched her reach under the tree, she pulled out an elegant navy blue box I'd never seen before. Marcus, she called out, her voice suddenly warm and personal. Come here. Marcus Chen, her assistant for the past 3 years, approached with that confident stride I'd grown to recognize. He was 32, ambitious, and had somehow become indispensable to Ashley's daily operations. More indispensable than her husband, apparently. I wanted to give you this personally, Ashley said, her fingers lingering on the box as she handed it to him. You've worked so incredibly hard this year. The room quieted as Marcus opened the box. Inside sat a gleaming Rolex Submariner, the kind that cost $15,000 minimum. The kind I'd mentioned wanting for my 50th birthday 6 years ago. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Margaret clutched my arm. Dennis, did you know about this? I didn't answer because my throat had closed. Ashley never spent that kind of money without consulting me. Never. We'd had arguments about spending $300 on new tires for my car. Marcus's face lit up as he lifted the watch from its velvet bed. Ashley, this is incredible. Thank you so much. She beamed at him with a radiance I hadn't seen directed at me in years. You deserve recognition, Marcus. Hard work should be rewarded. The crowd applauded. Someone whistled. I stood frozen, watching my wife gift a watch worth more than some people's monthly salary to her assistant, while I wore the same Timex I'd bought myself 10 years ago. But Ashley wasn't finished. Dennis, she called out, her voice cutting across the applause. Your turn. She reached under the tree again, pulling out a small, poorly wrapped package. No elegant box, no ceremony. She walked over and placed it in my hands without fanfare. I opened it slowly, aware that every eye in the room was watching. Inside was a pair of black dress socks, the kind you buy at the drugstore. The price tag was still attached, $8.99. The silence that followed felt like death. Be humble, Ashley whispered, leaning close to my ear so only I could hear. Everyone gets what they deserve. Those words hit me like a physical blow. 25 years of marriage, of support, of putting her career first, and I deserved $8 socks while Marcus deserved $15,000. I looked around the room at faces that couldn't quite meet my eyes. Margaret had gone pale. Even Marcus looked uncomfortable, suddenly studying his expensive gift with less enthusiasm. "Thank you," I managed to say, my voice somehow steady. "Very thoughtful." Ashley smiled, that bright, empty smile she used at board meetings. "I thought you'd appreciate something practical." The party continued around us, but something fundamental had shifted. Conversations resumed, but they carried an undercurrent of discomfort. I'd been publicly humiliated by my own wife, and everyone had witnessed it. I excused myself to the bathroom, where I stared at my reflection in the harsh fluorescent lighting. 56 years old, graying at the temples, wearing a suit I'd owned for 5 years because Ashley said we needed to watch expenses. Meanwhile, her assistant wore a watch worth more than my car. When I returned to the ballroom, Ashley was laughing with Marcus near the windows, their heads bent close together in intimate conversation. She touched his arm as she spoke, a gesture both casual and familiar. Too familiar. The pieces began falling into place with sickening clarity. The late nights at the office, the business trips where she couldn't be reached, the way she'd grown cold and distant over the past year, the way she looked at Marcus tonight like he was precious. I'd been replaced, and tonight was her way of making it official. The drive home was silent except for the hum of tires on asphalt. Ashley stared out her window, seemingly lost in thought, probably thinking about Marcus and his grateful smile when he'd opened that Rolex box. "Beautiful party," I said finally. "Yes, it went well," she replied without looking at me. "The quarterly projections look even better than we hoped." Always business with Ashley. Even our conversations had become quarterly reports. Marcus seemed pleased with his gift. Now she looked at me, her expression unreadable in the dashboard light. "He's earned it. He's been instrumental in our success this year." Our success. As if I hadn't spent 25 years supporting her journey, sacrificing my own ambitions so she could climb every rung of the corporate ladder. We pulled into our driveway at 11:30. The house we'd bought 15 years ago suddenly felt like a mausoleum filled with the echoes of a marriage that had died without me noticing. Ashley went straight to her home office, citing emails that couldn't wait until Monday. I sat in our living room, still holding the package of $8 socks, staring at our Christmas tree with its twinkling lights and perfectly arranged ornaments. 25 years? 25 years of believing that love meant sacrifice, that supporting your spouse's dreams was noble, that being humble and patient would be rewarded with gratitude and respect. Instead, I'd become invisible, a fixture in Ashley's life, as unremarkable and replaceable as furniture. But as I sat there in the quiet house, something inside me began to shift. The humiliation was transforming into something else, something clearer, something dangerous. I looked at those socks one more time, then set them aside. Tomorrow things would change. Tonight was the last night Dennis the doormat would exist. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Ashley, listening to her steady breathing while my mind raced through 25 years of memories, searching for signs I'd missed. How long had I been the fool in this equation? At 3 a.m, Ashley's phone buzzed on her nightstand. She'd fallen asleep with it face down, which was unusual. Ashley always kept her phone face up in case of work emergencies. I watched as she stirred slightly, but didn't wake. The phone buzzed again. Then again. Curiosity won over respect for privacy. After 25 years of marriage, I figured I'd earned the right to check who was texting my wife at 3 a.m. I carefully reached over and turned the phone face up. The messages were from Marcus. "Still thinking about tonight. You were incredible. That gift meant everything to me, almost as much as you do. I can't wait until you leave him." My blood turned to ice. I set the phone down with trembling hands, my heart hammering against my ribs. Leave him. Leave me. I slipped out of bed and went downstairs to the kitchen, where I made coffee with mechanical precision. My hands shook as I spooned the grounds, as I poured the water, as I waited for the machine to finish brewing. 25 years. She was planning to leave me after 25 years, and she'd orchestrated tonight's humiliation as, what? A goodbye gift? A final insult before discarding me completely. I drank my coffee in the dark, staring out at our backyard where I'd spent weekends gardening while Ashley worked. The roses I'd planted for our 10th anniversary were dormant now, waiting for spring. Would I be here to see them bloom again? By 4:30, I'd made my decision. I went to my study, a small room Ashley had allowed me to use for my hobbies and personal papers. She never came in here, dismissing it as my man cave with the same tone she'd used to describe a child's playhouse. But Ashley had underestimated what I kept in this room. In the bottom drawer of my desk, behind boxes of old photographs and tax returns, was a manila folder I'd hoped never to open. Inside were documents I'd gathered over the past 2 years, not out of suspicion but out of habit. I'd always been organized, always kept records. Bank statements showing large cash withdrawals from our joint account, credit card bills for restaurants I'd never been to, hotels in cities where Ashley claimed to have business meetings, receipts for gifts I'd never received, jewelry that had never appeared in Ashley's jewelry box. I'd noticed these things gradually, explained them away as business expenses or gifts for clients. Ashley made 6 figures. What was a few hundred here and there? But now, looking at the pattern, the truth was undeniable. She'd been funding her affair with our money. The hotel receipts were particularly damning. The Grand Plaza downtown, the same suite number, booked twice a month for the past 8 months, always on days when Ashley claimed to be working late. I photographed everything with my phone, then put the documents back exactly where I'd found them. Ashley's phone records would be next, but I didn't need to see them to know what I'd find. At 5 in the morning, I began packing. I moved quietly through our house, gathering only what mattered. Clothes, important documents, the watch my father had given me before he died. I left behind everything Ashley had bought me, every gift that had come with strings attached. In my study, I pulled out a sheet of our expensive letterhead stationery. Ashley had ordered it years ago for personal correspondence she'd never actually sent. She'd always preferred emails and text messages. I wrote, carefully, my handwriting steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Ashley, I began, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. 25 years is a long time to love someone who sees you as disposable. You made your feelings clear last night in front of everyone we know. I paused, considering my next words carefully. I know about Marcus. I know about the hotels. I know about the money you've been spending on him using our joint accounts. I know about the text messages at 3 in the morning. My hand trembled slightly as I continued. But here's what you don't know about me. I've been preparing for this possibility for longer than you think. I've seen the way you look at me lately, like I'm furniture you're tired of dusting. So I made arrangements. This was the part that would shock her most. The safe deposit box you don't know about contains copies of every receipt, every bank statement, every piece of evidence of your affair. The lawyer you don't know I've consulted has already prepared the papers. The separate bank account you don't know exists contains enough money to ensure I'll never have to beg you for anything. I set the pen down for a moment, thinking about Marcus and his grateful smile as he'd opened that Rolex box. $15,000. Ashley had given him $15,000 while handing me $8 socks. You always underestimated me, Ashley. You thought I was weak because I supported your career. You thought I was stupid because I didn't fight when you dismissed me. But I was watching. I was learning. I was preparing. The final paragraph was the most important. I won't be filing for divorce immediately. That would be too easy for you. Instead, I'm disappearing. You'll have to live with the uncertainty, just like I lived with your cruelty. When you're ready to face the consequences of what you've done, when you're ready to be honest about who you really are, you'll find a way to reach me. Until then, consider this my gift to you. The same respect and consideration you've shown me. I signed it simply. Dennis. I sealed the letter in an envelope and placed it under the Christmas tree, right where Ashley had humiliated me 12 hours earlier. Let her find it there among the torn wrapping paper and evidence of last night's celebration. By 5:30, my car was loaded. I took one last look at the house we'd shared, at the life we'd built together, at the dreams that had slowly curdled into disappointment and contempt. My phone buzzed as I backed out of the driveway. A text from Marcus to Ashley that had somehow come to my phone instead. Technology glitches at the worst possible moments. Can't wait to celebrate our future together. Tonight was perfect. You handled the Dennis situation beautifully. The Dennis situation. That's what I'd become. A situation to be handled. I deleted the message and turned off my phone. By the time Ashley woke up, by the time she found my letter, By the time she realized what had happened, I would be hours away. I'd spent 25 years being the supportive husband, the understanding partner, the man who put everyone else's needs before his own. That man had died last night in a ballroom, clutching a package of $8 socks while watching his wife shower another man with expensive gifts and intimate touches. The man driving away in the pre-dawn darkness was someone different, someone who'd finally learned that respect is never given freely to those who don't demand it. Ashley wanted me gone. Fine. But she discovered that getting rid of me would cost her more than she'd bargained for. As I drove toward the highway, I allowed myself one small smile. She'd spent months planning how to discard me, but I'd spent years preparing for the possibility that our marriage might end. Tonight she'd find out which one of us was better at playing the long game. I was 300 miles away when Ashley found my letter. I'd driven through the night, stopping only for gas and coffee, heading toward the small coastal town where I'd spent childhood summers with my grandmother. The place Ashley had always dismissed as quaint, with that particular tone that meant boring and beneath her standards. My phone had been off for hours, but I could imagine the scene playing out in our living room. Ashley waking up to find my side of the bed empty, calling my name through the house, discovering my clothes gone from the closet, my toiletries missing from the bathroom, and then finding the envelope under our Christmas tree, propped against the base where she'd placed my humiliating gift the night before. I was having breakfast at a roadside diner when I finally turned my phone back on. 47 missed calls, 63 text messages. The voicemails started immediately. The first one was confusion. "Dennis, where are you? Your car is gone? Call me back immediately." The second was irritation. "This is ridiculous. Whatever game you're playing, stop it. I have a board meeting this morning." The third was panic. "Dennis, please, I found your letter. We need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding." I deleted them without listening to the rest. Let her panic. Let her wonder. Let her feel what uncertainty tastes like for once. But it was the text messages that told the real story of Ashley's morning. 8:15. "Dennis, come home now." 8:30. "I don't know what you think you know, but you're wrong." 8:45. "You can't just disappear. We have responsibilities." 9:07. "Marcus says you're being irrational. Men your age go through phases." That last one made me laugh out loud, earning a concerned look from the waitress refilling my coffee. Marcus was offering psychological analysis now? The man who'd been screwing my wife for months was diagnosing my mental health? But it was the 9:30 message that revealed how thoroughly I'd shaken Ashley's world. "Dennis, I called the bank. What do you mean you have a separate account? When did you open it? How much money are we talking about?" We. Even now, even after everything, Ashley assumed my money belonged to both of us. The entitlement was breathtaking. The truth was, I'd been preparing for this day for 3 years. It started innocently enough. Ashley had made a comment about how I should contribute more to our household income, despite the fact that I'd been managing our investments and handling our financial planning for 2 decades. She'd suggested I get a real job instead of freelancing from home. That night I'd opened my laptop and started researching. Not job opportunities, investment strategies. I'd always been good with numbers, good with research. While Ashley climbed the corporate ladder, I'd quietly taught myself about day trading, cryptocurrency, real estate investment trusts. Small amounts at first, money from my freelance work that Ashley never bothered to track. $500 became $1,000. 1,000 became 5,000. Compound interest and careful reinvestment turned my modest nest egg into something substantial. The separate bank account held $187,000. Ashley had no idea it existed because she'd stopped paying attention to our finances years ago. She made the big salary, so she assumed she controlled all the money. She never bothered to ask what I did with the income from my consulting work. But that wasn't even the most devastating surprise waiting for her. My phone rang as I paid my breakfast bill. Ashley's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to her message as I walked to my car. "Dennis." Her voice was different now, smaller, uncertain. "I need to understand what's happening. You mentioned a lawyer. What lawyer? What papers? Please, we need to talk about this like adults. Like adults. As if I were the child in this relationship. As if I were the one who'd been sneaking around, lying, spending our money on expensive gifts for my lover. I started my car and continued driving toward the coast. Let her wonder about the lawyer. Let her imagination run wild. The truth was, I'd consulted 3 different attorneys over the past year. Not because I wanted a divorce, but because I wanted to understand my options. I wanted to know what Ashley could take from me if our marriage ended. The answer had been sobering. After 25 years, she'd be entitled to half of everything. Half of our house, half of our investments, half of my retirement savings. But she'd also be responsible for half of our debts, half of our obligations, including the debt she didn't know about. See, Ashley's spending on Marcus hadn't gone unnoticed. The expensive dinners, the hotel rooms, the jewelry, the watch, all of it charged to credit cards in both our names. All of it accumulating interest while Ashley lived in her fantasy world where actions didn't have consequences. $43,000 in credit card debt. All of it legally mine as much as hers. But that wasn't the real trap I'd set. The real trap was the house. 3 months ago, I'd quietly refinanced our mortgage. Ashley had been too busy with her work trips to pay attention to the paperwork. I told her it was a routine adjustment to get better interest rates, and she'd signed where I indicated without reading the details. What Ashley didn't realize was that the new mortgage wasn't just in both our names. It included a clause that made me the sole beneficiary of the property in case of separation or divorce. A clause buried in subsection 14 of a 40-page document that Ashley had signed while talking on the phone with Marcus. Legal? Absolutely. Ethical? That depended on your perspective. I'd learned from watching Ashley for 25 years. She taught me that nice guys finish last, that respect goes to those who take it, that loyalty is a weakness to be exploited. So I'd stopped being nice. I'd stopped being loyal. I'd started playing by her rules. My phone buzzed with another text. "Dennis, I'm scared. Please come home, we can work this out." Scared? Ashley was finally scared. I pulled over at a scenic overlook and looked out at the ocean in the distance. For the first time in years, I felt something like peace. No more walking on eggshells. No more pretending that $8 socks were an acceptable Christmas gift from someone who earned more money than most people saw in a lifetime. But I wasn't finished yet. I composed a single text message. Check the mail. Before I'd left that morning, I'd placed an envelope in our mailbox, not addressed to Ashley, addressed to Marcus Chen, care of our address. Inside was a single photograph. Marcus and Ashley entering the Grand Plaza Hotel taken 3 weeks ago. Below it a printed note. "Your wife called looking for you. Thought you should know where you really were that Tuesday night. You said you were working late." Marcus was married. Had been for 8 years. Ashley knew this, of course. She'd met his wife Rebecca at company functions, had smiled and made small talk while planning to destroy their marriage. But Rebecca didn't know about Ashley. Yet. The photograph would arrive at our house within hours. Ashley would have to decide whether to give it to Marcus, hide it, or throw it away. Any choice she made would reveal something about her character. More importantly, it would reveal to Marcus that their affair wasn't as secret as they'd believed. I got back in my car and continued toward my grandmother's old cottage. The place I'd inherited 5 years ago but never told Ashley about. The place where I'd been quietly making repairs and improvements, preparing for a future I'd hoped would never come. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Patterson?" The voice was professional, efficient. "This is Rebecca Chen. I believe you know my husband Marcus." I pulled over again, my heart racing. The photograph had worked faster than I'd expected. "Mrs. Chen," I said carefully, "how can I help you?" "I think," she said, her voice tight with controlled fury, "we need to talk." The game was changing faster than even I had anticipated. Ashley thought she was playing chess, moving pieces around the board to suit her strategy. But I'd been playing a different game entirely. And now, with Rebecca Chen's call, I wasn't the only one with moves left to make. Ashley wanted to discard me like an old piece of furniture? Fine. But she was about to learn that some furniture fights back. Rebecca Chen was nothing like I'd expected. I'd met her briefly at company events over the years, but only in passing. Ashley had always steered conversations away from Marcus's personal life, claiming she preferred to keep business and personal relationships separate. Now I understood why. Rebecca was 42, a pediatric nurse with steel in her spine and fire in her dark eyes. When she suggested we meet at a coffee shop halfway between our respective locations, I'd imagined tears and hysterics. Instead, I found a woman who reminded me uncomfortably of myself, someone who'd been blindsided by betrayal but refused to crumble. "Mr. Patterson," she said, standing as I approached her table. Her handshake was firm, professional. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." I sat across from her, noting the manila folder at her elbow and the laptop bag beside her chair. Rebecca Chen had come prepared for business. "I have to ask," she said without preamble, "how long have you known?" "About the affair? I suspected something was wrong for months. I found proof 3 days ago." She nodded grimly. "Marcus has been different for almost a year. Secretive. Working late constantly. New clothes, new cologne, new habits." She paused, her voice catching slightly. "I thought he was planning to surprise me for our anniversary." The bitterness in her laugh was familiar. I'd heard the same sound from my own throat recently. "Instead," she continued, "I found hotel receipts in his jacket pocket yesterday morning. The same hotel, the same dates as the ones in your photograph." She opened the manila folder. "I've been doing my homework. Credit card statements, phone records, a private investigator's preliminary report." Rebecca had been busy in the 24 hours since receiving my photograph. "Marcus charged dinner for 2 at Le Bernardin last Tuesday," she said, pointing to a highlighted line on a statement. "Told me he was working through dinner with a difficult client. $340 for a meal I'll never taste." I studied the documents she'd arranged on the table. Rebecca was thorough, methodical. She'd documented months of lies with the precision of a forensic accountant. "Your wife," Rebecca said carefully. "How long has she been doing this?" 25 years of marriage, and I never suspected until recently. But looking back now, I can see signs I missed, or chose to ignore. "Men like my husband are predictable," Rebecca said, her voice clinical. "They want excitement, validation, the thrill of conquest. But women like your wife?" She trailed off, studying my face. "They're different, more calculating." I thought about Ashley's performance at the Christmas party, the deliberate humiliation, the careful staging of my replacement. "Ashley doesn't do anything without a plan," I agreed. Rebecca leaned forward. "Then we need to understand what her plan actually is." Over the next hour, Rebecca and I compared notes like detective partners working a case. The picture that emerged was more complex than simple adultery. Marcus had been promoted twice in the past year, both times to positions he wasn't qualified for. His salary had increased by 60%. His new office was 3 doors down from Ashley's. "She's not just having an affair," Rebecca said slowly. "She's grooming him, training him to replace you professionally and personally." The realization hit like a physical blow. Ashley wasn't just cheating on me. She was systematically replacing me with a younger, more malleable version. Someone she could control completely. "My husband is ambitious but lazy," Rebecca continued. "He wants success without effort, recognition without work. Your wife is offering him both. And when she's finished with him..." Rebecca's smile was sharp as a blade. "Men like Marcus never realize they are disposable until they've been disposed of." She was right. Ashley had manipulated me for years, slowly eroding my confidence and independence. Now she was doing the same thing to Marcus, just in reverse. Instead of diminishing him, she was inflating his ego, making him dependent on her approval and advancement. But Ashley had made a crucial error. She'd underestimated both Rebecca and me. "What do you propose we do about it?" I asked. Rebecca closed the folder and pulled out a legal document I recognized. "Divorce papers," she said simply. "Filed this morning. Marcus will be served at your wife's office tomorrow." I stared at her. "That's going to create quite a scene." "That's the point." Rebecca's expression was serene, almost peaceful. "I spent 8 years being the understanding wife while Marcus chased every opportunity for advancement. I put his career first, moved cities for his jobs, entertained his colleagues, played the perfect corporate spouse. Sound familiar?" It sounded exactly familiar. "But I also did something your wife apparently never bothered with. I protected myself." Rebecca pulled out another document. "Prenuptial agreement. Marcus gets nothing in the divorce except his personal belongings and half our debt. The woman was brilliant. While I'd been scrambling to protect my assets after discovering the affair, Rebecca had been protected for years. There's more, she said. Marcus's promotion last month came with stock options that don't vest for 2 years. He's been planning to cash them out to buy a house. Our house is in my name only, purchased before our marriage. I began to understand the scope of Rebecca's strategy. Marcus was about to lose everything, and Ashley was about to inherit a very expensive problem. But here's the truly beautiful part, Rebecca continued. Marcus has been charging his affair expenses to a corporate credit card. Company policy forbids personal use of corporate accounts. It's grounds for immediate termination. Ashley didn't know it yet, but her lover was about to become unemployed, divorced, and financially ruined. All because he'd been careless with receipts and credit cards. The question is, Rebecca said, what do you want from your wife? I thought about the Christmas party, the $8 socks, the public humiliation, the 25 years of slow, systematic erosion of my dignity. I want her to understand what she's lost, I said finally. I want her to realize that actions have consequences. Rebecca smiled. Then I have a proposition for you. She outlined her plan with military precision. Marcus would be served with divorce papers at the office, in front of Ashley and their colleagues. The corporate credit card abuse would be reported to HR simultaneously. Ashley would have to choose between protecting Marcus and protecting herself. She'll throw him under the bus, I predicted. Ashley always chooses self-preservation. Exactly, and Marcus will finally see who she really is. But Rebecca wasn't finished. The real genius, she said, is that your wife has been so focused on replacing you. She never considered what happens if her replacement becomes a liability instead of an asset. I was beginning to appreciate Rebecca's strategic mind. While Ashley thought she was playing chess, Rebecca was playing three-dimensional chess. What do you need from me? I asked. Nothing dramatic. Just be exactly where you are now, unreachable. Let her panic spiral without an anchor. Rebecca gathered her documents. Ashley is about to learn that when you burn bridges, sometimes you're standing on the wrong side of the fire. As we stood to leave, Rebecca paused. Can I ask you something personal? I nodded. Do you still love her? The question caught me off guard. Did I still love Ashley? The woman who'd humiliated me publicly, who'd been cheating on me for months, who treated me like disposable furniture. I love who I thought she was, I said finally. But that person never existed. Rebecca's expression softened with understanding. Marcus asked me the same question yesterday. I told him I love the man I married, but I have no idea who he's become. We exchanged phone numbers and agreed to stay in contact. As I watched Rebecca drive away, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the satisfaction of having an ally. Ashley had always operated from a position of power, controlling information and situations to her advantage. She'd assumed that I would react predictably, that I would either grovel for her attention or rage impotently at her betrayal. She'd never considered that I might simply disappear, or that her lover's wife might be more dangerous than her discarded husband. My phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. Dennis, please, I need to know you're safe. Whatever you think is happening, we can fix this. I typed back a single word, no. Tomorrow, Marcus would lose his job, his marriage, and his future. Ashley would have to decide whether to go down with him or abandon him to save herself. Either choice would reveal exactly who she really was, and either choice would cost her more than she'd bargained for. I'd spent 25 years being the supporting character in Ashley's story. Now I was writing my own ending. I was sitting on my grandmother's porch, watching seagulls fight over scraps on the beach, when Ashley's world began to collapse. The cottage hadn't changed much in the 5 years since I'd inherited it. Weathered shingles, creaky floorboards, windows that stuck when the humidity was high. Ashley had visited exactly once, pronouncing it charming but impractical, before suggesting I sell it and invest the money in something more sensible. I'd smiled and nodded, and quietly paid the property taxes every year, fixing loose boards and replacing worn fixtures. The cottage had been my escape plan before I even knew I needed one. Now, 3 days after disappearing from my old life, I was drinking coffee on the front porch while my phone buzzed with increasingly desperate messages from Ashley. I'd started reading them for entertainment value. 8:30 a.m. Dennis, I know you think you understand what's happening, but you don't. Marcus is just a colleague. 8:45 a.m. I've made mistakes, but we can work through this. 25 years means something. 9:15 a.m. Where are you getting your information? Someone is lying to you. 9:47 a.m. Please answer your phone. I'm worried about you. The progression from denial to bargaining was textbook. Ashley was cycling through the stages of grief at record speed, but it was the 10:30 message that told me Rebecca's plan had begun. Something terrible is happening at work. I can't reach Marcus. Please call me. I checked my watch. Rebecca had estimated the process server would arrive at Ashley's office around 10:15. Right on schedule. My phone rang 15 minutes later, Rebecca's number. It's done, she said without preamble. Marcus was served in the conference room during the weekly staff meeting. 12 witnesses, including your wife. How did he react? Denial, then panic, then anger. He demanded to know how I found out. When I mentioned the photograph, he went pale. I could imagine the scene. Marcus, so confident in his secret affair, suddenly exposed in front of his colleagues and his lover. The same colleagues who'd watched Ashley humiliate me 3 nights earlier. And Ashley? Rebecca's laugh was sharp. Your wife is a remarkable actress. She expressed shock and concern for Marcus's personal situation. Offered to give him time off to deal with his family crisis. Very professional, very concerned, very calculated. Ashley would distance herself from Marcus immediately, protecting her position while he burned. The corporate credit card report was filed an hour later, Rebecca continued. HR will begin their investigation tomorrow. Marcus will be suspended pending review. How much trouble is he in? Enough. The charges total nearly $15,000 over 8 months. Hotels, restaurants, jewelry, all clearly personal expenses. $15,000. The same amount Ashley had spent on Marcus's Christmas watch. The irony was perfect, but Rebecca saved the best news for last. Marcus called me 20 minutes ago, she said. He wants to work things out. Apparently your wife told him that their relationship was a mistake, that she never intended for things to go so far. I felt a cold satisfaction settle in my chest. Ashley was cutting Marcus loose exactly as I'd predicted. When the chips were down, Ashley always chose Ashley. How did you respond? I hung up on him, let him figure out his own mess. After Rebecca hung up, I sat on the porch for another hour, watching clouds gather over the ocean. My phone continued buzzing with messages from Ashley, each one more frantic than the last. 11:15. Marcus has been served with divorce papers. Did you know about this? Did you contact his wife? 11:30. Dennis, you don't understand what you've done. This is going to destroy everything. 12:05. I know you're angry, but this vindictive behavior isn't like you. Vindictive. Ashley was finally beginning to understand that the man she'd married had changed, but the message that arrived at 12:45 told me something had shifted fundamentally. I need you to come home. Now. We have a serious problem. Not, please come home. Not, I miss you. A demand. Ashley was reverting to the tone she used when she expected immediate obedience. I typed back, what kind of problem? Her response was immediate. The kind that could destroy both our lives if we don't handle it together. Interesting. Ashley needed me now. Something had happened that even her considerable skill at damage control couldn't fix alone. I waited another hour before calling her back. Let her panic. Let her feel what helplessness tastes like. Dennis. Her voice was tight with stress. Where are you? Safe. What's the serious problem you mentioned? A long pause, then, Marcus is threatening to expose our relationship unless I help him save his job. Blackmail. Marcus was trying to blackmail Ashley. And if he talks, it won't just be my reputation that suffers. The board will investigate my judgment, my decision-making. They'll question every promotion I gave him, every project I assigned him to. Ashley was finally understanding the consequences of mixing business with pleasure. Marcus hadn't just been her lover, he'd been her employee. The power dynamic made their affair a liability for the entire company. That sounds like your problem, I said calmly. No, Dennis, it's our problem. If I lose my position, we lose everything. The house, our investments, our lifestyle, everything we've built together. Everything we've built. As if I'd been an equal partner in building Ashley's career instead of the supporting actor who'd sacrificed his own ambitions for hers. We? I repeated. Ashley, you made it very clear at the Christmas party that there is no we. You gave me $8 socks and your boyfriend a $15,000 watch. You whispered that everyone gets what they deserve. Remember? Silence. Then in a smaller voice. I was angry that night, stressed about work. I said things I didn't mean. You meant every word, and now you're dealing with the consequences. Dennis, please, I know I hurt you. I know I made terrible choices. But we can fix this if we work together. I almost laughed. Ashley was still trying to manipulate me, still assuming I would rescue her from the mess she'd created. How exactly do you propose we fix this? Come home. Help me manage Marcus. Together we can contain the damage. You want me to help you save the man you've been cheating with? I want you to help me save our marriage. Our marriage? The marriage she'd been planning to end so she could be with Marcus. The marriage she'd publicly humiliated with $8 socks and whispered insults. Ashley, I said slowly, our marriage ended the moment you decided Marcus deserved more respect than I did. No, she said, desperation creeping into her voice. No, it doesn't have to end like this. I made mistakes, but I love you. I've always loved you. Always loved me, while charging romantic dinners with another man to our joint credit cards, while booking hotel rooms for afternoon trysts, while planning to leave me for her assistant. If you loved me, I said, you would have loved me enough not to betray me. Dennis, you don't understand. With Marcus, it was just, it was excitement. It wasn't real. You're my husband. You're my life. I was her life when she needed rescuing. I was disposable when she wanted excitement. Where's Marcus now? I asked. I don't know. He stormed out after HR suspended him. He's not answering his phone. Marcus was probably somewhere licking his wounds, trying to figure out how his perfect setup had collapsed so quickly. One day he was the golden boy with the expensive watch and the powerful lover. The next day he was unemployed, divorced, and facing potential criminal charges for credit card fraud. Ashley, I said, I want you to think very carefully about what happens next. What do you mean? I mean you have a choice to make. You can keep trying to manipulate me into cleaning up your mess, or you can take responsibility for what you've done. I am taking responsibility. That's why I'm asking for your help. No. Ashley was trying to spread the responsibility, to make her problems my problems. She wanted me to share the consequences without having shared in the decision-making. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to handle Marcus yourself. You're going to face whatever professional consequences come from your relationship with him, and you're going to stop trying to drag me into the wreckage of your choices. Dennis, you can't abandon me now, not after 25 years. You abandoned me at a Christmas party, Ashley, in front of everyone we know. You abandoned me every time you chose Marcus over me. You abandoned me every time you spent our money on him while buying me discount socks. I could hear her crying now, but I felt nothing. The man who would have comforted her, who would have put aside his own hurt to rescue her, had died 3 nights ago in a hotel ballroom. I'm going to hang up now, I said. And I'm going to turn off my phone for the rest of the day. Use that time to figure out who you really are and what you really want. Because the woman I married wouldn't have done any of this. Dennis, wait. I hung up and immediately powered down my phone. The afternoon was peaceful without the constant buzzing of messages and calls. I walked along the beach, collected shells, made myself a simple dinner from the groceries I'd bought that morning. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about Ashley's schedule, Ashley's needs, Ashley's crises. I wasn't planning my day around supporting someone else's ambitions. I was free, but freedom, I was learning, came with a price, and Ashley was about to discover that some prices are higher than others. 6 months later, I was painting the cottage's front porch when a familiar car pulled into my driveway. Ashley stepped out of her Mercedes, looking smaller somehow than I remembered. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore jeans and a sweater instead of her typical power suit. She looked tired, older, but there was something different in her posture. Something that might have been humility. "Hello, Dennis," she said, standing at the bottom of the porch steps like she wasn't sure she was welcome. I set down my paintbrush and wiped my hands on an old wreck. "Ashley, how did you find me?" "Your lawyer. He said you might be willing to talk." My lawyer. I'd finally filed for divorce 2 months ago, not out of anger but out of acceptance. Some things couldn't be repaired, only ended cleanly. "What do you want to talk about?" She glanced around at the cottage, the fresh paint, the garden I'd started along the front walkway. "You've made this place beautiful. It's home now." Ashley nodded slowly. "May I sit?" I gestured to the porch swing my grandmother had loved. Ashley sat, carefully, her hands folded in her lap. "I wanted to tell you what happened," she said, "after you left." I continued painting, not looking at her directly. "If this is about the divorce settlement, my lawyer can handle that. It's not about money." Her voice was quiet, almost subdued. "It's about what I learned about myself." I glanced at her sideways. This was a different Ashley than the woman who'd humiliated me at the Christmas party. This woman seemed almost, broken. "Marcus was fired a week after you left," she said. "The credit card investigation found evidence of fraud. He was arrested, charged with embezzlement." I kept painting. I'd heard about Marcus's legal troubles through Rebecca, who'd kept me updated on the aftermath of our plan. "He tried to implicate me," Ashley continued. "Claimed I authorized his expenses, that I encouraged him to use the corporate card. He said I promised to protect him." "And did you?" Ashley was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Finally, "No. I threw him under the bus completely. I told HR I had no knowledge of his personal use of company funds. I presented myself as another victim of his deception." I turned to look at her fully. "Was that the truth?" "No." The word came out as barely a whisper. "I knew about every charge. I even suggested some of them. But when he became a liability, I protected myself." At least Ashley was being honest now. "The board launched a full investigation," she continued. "They questioned every decision I'd made regarding Marcus, every promotion, every assignment. My judgment was deemed compromised by personal involvement. And I was asked to resign. They offered me a severance package in exchange for signing a non-disclosure agreement." I stopped painting entirely. Ashley had lost her job, the career she'd built over 20 years, the position that had been more important to her than our marriage, was gone. "I'm sorry," I said, and surprised myself by meaning it. Ashley looked up at me, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Are you? Really?" I considered the question seriously. Was I sorry that Ashley had lost everything? 6 months ago I might have felt vindicated. Now I just felt sad. "I'm sorry that it came to this," I said finally. "I'm sorry that we couldn't find a way to fix what was broken before it destroyed everything. I'm the one who destroyed it." Her voice was steady but heavy with regret. "I'm the one who chose excitement over loyalty. I'm the one who traded 25 years of marriage for a few months of feeling young and desired." I sat down on the porch steps, facing her. "Why, Ashley? Why wasn't what we had enough?" She was quiet for a long time, staring out at the ocean. "Because I stopped seeing you," she said eventually. "Not literally, but I stopped seeing you as a person. You became part of the furniture of my life. Reliable, comfortable, always there when I needed you." "And Marcus?" "Marcus made me feel powerful. He needed me, depended on me, looked at me like I was the most important person in his world." She laughed bitterly. "Of course he was looking at my position and my salary, not at me." "Did you love him?" Ashley shook her head. "I loved how he made me feel about myself. I loved being desired, being pursued. I loved having someone who hung on my every word." She paused. "I confused being wanted with being loved." We sat in silence for a while, listening to the sound of waves against the shore. "I lost everything," Ashley said finally. My job, my reputation, my marriage. The house is in foreclosure because I can't make the mortgage payments without my salary. I'm 48 years old and I have to start over completely. I thought about pointing out that she wouldn't be in this situation if she hadn't spent our money on her affair, if she hadn't humiliated me publicly, if she hadn't chosen Marcus over our marriage. But what was the point? Ashley was living with the consequences of her choices. "What will you do now?" I asked. "I don't know. Look for another job, I suppose, though my reputation in the industry is complicated." She looked at me. "What about you? Are you happy here?" I glanced around at the cottage and the garden, the peaceful life I'd built. "Yes, I am. I'm glad." She seemed to mean it. "You deserve to be happy." Ashley stood up, smoothing her jeans. "There's one more thing I need to say." I waited. "The Christmas party. What I did to you that night, the socks, the public humiliation. It was cruel. It was the worst thing I've ever done to another human being." Her voice broke slightly. "I was trying to push you away because I was too cowardly to just ask for a divorce. I thought if I made you angry enough, you'd leave me and I wouldn't have to be the bad guy." "But I didn't leave angry," I said. "I left disappointed." "I know. And that's so much worse, isn't it?" We looked at each other across the space of 6 months and 25 years of marriage. "I won't contest the divorce," Ashley said. "Whatever you want in terms of settlement, I won't fight it." "I don't want anything from you, Ashley. I just want to be free." She nodded, tears finally spilling over. "You are free. You've been free since the moment you walked out of our house." After she left, I sat on the porch for a long time, watching the sun set over the ocean. I thought about the man I'd been 6 months ago, clutching $8 socks while watching his wife celebrate another man. That man felt like a stranger now. 3 weeks later, Rebecca called to tell me that Marcus had been sentenced to 18 months in prison for embezzlement. His wife had remarried and moved across the country with their children. Marcus would have nothing waiting for him when he got out. "Do you feel vindicated?" Rebecca asked. "I feel sad," I said. "For all of us. For what we lost, what we wasted, what we could have been if we'd all made different choices." "Regret is a luxury," Rebecca said. "We did what we had to do to survive." She was right. But survival and happiness weren't the same thing. I'd survived Ashley's betrayal, Marcus's arrogance, the humiliation of being publicly discarded. But happiness was something I had to build for myself. And I was building it. The cottage was finished now, painted and repaired and transformed into something beautiful. I'd started a small consulting business, working with clients who appreciated my experience and paid me what I was worth. I had friends in town, people who knew me as Dennis, the helpful neighbor, not Dennis, the discarded husband. On quiet evenings, I sat on the porch with a book and a glass of wine, listening to the ocean and feeling grateful for the peace I'd found. Sometimes I thought about Ashley, wondering if she'd managed to rebuild her life, hoping she'd learned something from the wreckage of our marriage. But mostly I thought about the future, about possibilities I'd never considered when I was playing the supporting role in someone else's story. I was 56 years old, and for the first time in decades, my life belonged entirely to me. The man who'd been humiliated with $8 socks was gone. The man who'd accepted disrespect and betrayal for the sake of keeping peace was gone. In their place was someone new, someone who understood his own worth, who demanded respect, who chose dignity over convenience. Someone who'd learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away and never look back.